Michael Carnevale is branch manager and financial advisor. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, 400 Southbridge Street in Auburn, Massachusetts, 1-800-657-9126. A member of FINRA SIPC and are not deposits, not insured by FDIC or any governmental agency, not guaranteed by Webster 5 Cent Savings Bank, and subject to risk, may lose value. Webster 5 Cent Savings Bank is not affiliated with Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated. The information contained in this report does not purport to be a complete description of the securities markets or developments referred to in the material. The information has been obtained from sources considered to be reliable, but we do not guarantee that the foregoing material is accurate or complete. Any information is not a complete summary or statement of all available data necessary for making an investment decision and does not constitute a recommendation. Any opinions are those of Michael Carnevale and not necessarily those of RJFS or Raymond James. Expressions of opinion are as of this date and are subject to change without notice.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Conversations with. I'm Richard Morco, and as usual, we have a career man here, Mike Carnevale, a man who's much too serious for this show, but we'll try to get through this. Mike, can you hold it together?
Yeah, I'm going to try to.
Okay.
I'm going to try to.
So Mike, as usual, comes up with what has happened in the month prior, and May is usually not the greatest month.
Usually not.
So what happened this month?
Well, it was pretty good, but we know April was very bad.
Yeah.
So we recovered about a little more than half of what we lost in April. So May was actually up 2.3%. The Dow closed at 40,000 for the first time in history on May 17th. And it continued the positive May streak now to 5 years in a row. Didn't look like it was going to when we entered the month, but
and
it did.
You have hopes for June, or is this, how's June so far?
Well, June has done nothing really so far.
Okay.
Maybe
it's too early.
It's too early. And historically, June is a little worse than May, but we'll see in a minute or two, there are some things that might be happening that might make June pretty good.
Okay, ever the optimist.
I'll try to be.
And bonds?
They actually fell, even though my notes say that the math doesn't add up, typing error there. The 30-year actually fell. It was 479 a month ago, and it's 4.65 today. So, rates starting to drop again.
And this is because the economy's having a bit of a scrape?
It could be.
Okay.
It could be. We'll see that too in a minute. But the yield curve is still negative, and it's been that way for years. So.
Well, June is usually 10th.
Right.
Going down from the usual May.
Right.
And you've always said that's kind of a decline until when, October?
Until October, and after Halloween. But the 6 of the last 8 Junes have been up, so.
Oh, interesting.
In most recent history, June has been very volatile. Last year, June was up 6%, and in 2022, June was down 9%. So those are like yearly returns, within the span of a month. So June, most recently, has been very volatile.
So we're living in hope.
Yep.
Okay, let's hope it's a good June then.
Yes.
Technicals. Short-term sentiment weakened during the month. 200-day New York Stock Exchange moving average is now 69% versus 67% a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
40 to 80 equals average risks. Well, that looks average then.
Yep.
What did it weaken from? You said the sentiment weakened.
Yeah. That actually, the fact that it went from 69 to 69 from 67 is negative. You want the lower number. The lower the better on that one.
Okay. So we didn't, we end up weakening.
Right. Volatility went down. You actually want to see that go up. So that's another weak sign. The stochastic oscillator really went up a lot. That's another one you want to see go down. And then the fear and greed index, it's the only one that went in the right direction. That rose, meaning there was more fear. It's at, the number's at 47. A month ago it was 42. So 3 of the 4 technical indicators went in the wrong direction during the month of May.
Okay, junk bond demand. I always see junk bond. I always, since they came up with that term, what was that, in the 70s? Or
Yeah, 70s, maybe
Yeah.
80s too, yeah.
80s. You look, you're thinking of people with crates taking out bonds
Yeah.
and toss them
Yeah.
on a pile. So what is putting junk bond demand? Is that demand stronger? Or?
It is, mainly because of, those rates are really high right now.
And people really think they're going to get, we got to call Deutsche Bank.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
They call them now high yield bonds. But
They don't call them junk anymore?
Eh.
You call
I
them?
still call them junk bonds. But they're not high yield. Or non-investment grade, I guess.
Non-investment grade.
But, we're in the suburbs, so we can use the slang word junk. I mean, if we were in a major metropolitan area, we'd have to use the high-class
polite,
name
yeah,
for it.
the gentlemanly and
Yes.
ladylike term.
Right.
All right, you usually have a whole stack of records of how people rates change, and
Not much happened in the month of May.
what's wrong with Turkey that they're not raising their rates?
They didn't, but they did come out with this week with their annual inflation rate is now gone up to 75%.
Is there any way anybody can do a play on this? I mean,
I think it would be a Mel Brooks type would be the one
Yeah.
who would.
like he had that high anxiety,
Yeah.
high inflation.
Yeah.
The movie.
Yes.
I think there's something there.
Three Stooges also could pull it off.
Rest their souls.
Yes.
Yeah, if they get a little reincarnation,
Yeah.
we'll put them on speed dial.
Yeah.
So why do you only have no change from the United Kingdom?
They were the only major one that held an interest rate meeting.
So just they didn't change from a meeting, but everybody else changed without a meeting.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, oil. I'm noticing, looking in the morning, or looking at the pump, it seems to be holding a little steady and down a little. I think it's down to the 75 recently.
Yeah, it's been slowly dropping.
It's that who's that's good for. Maybe not good enough for him. Biden.
Oh, it won't be good enough for him, no.
Oh, he has to get down to 50.
Yeah.
And that doesn't look.
Yeah. He's got to get it under $3 a gallon, and that's not going to happen.
No. If that does happen, he will definitely flog that as I'm the guy.
Well, it's amazing, with everything that's gone on, for him to still be behind has got to tell you how weak a candidate. I mean...
Well, he's saying it's 2 wars.
Yep, but...
How many presidents get 2 wars?
No, not many.
So...
But still, I mean, if you just woke up and somebody said, these are the 2 candidates, and let me tell you, I'm not going to tell you about one of the candidates, but I'll tell you about the other. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this, and who would you say would be in the lead?
obviously the other fellow.
by a wide margin.
But
It's scary times.
if you wake up and you say about the other guy, you say X number of felonies convicted, whether that was lawfare or whatever you want to call that,
Yeah,
that's a hit too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting. I would say people will, the average person who's having to go out and go to the gas pump will say, I don't think Biden's a great guy.
Yeah, or a grocery store.
Groceries, yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be a long stretch for him to come back from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Now, everybody in Cambridge,
Oh, that's a different story.
everybody in Amherst,
That's a different
that
story.
is a different story.
Yeah. Or the Wall Street crowd. Yeah. Biden's been very good.
Is he? Is he? Been
yeah.
really-
Yeah. Most customers, their portfolios are at all-time highs.
You know, I go back and forth with this, that Dow at 40,000.
Yeah.
How much of that is inflation?
Yeah, I mean, probably half of it.
So, inflation and the time factor of inflation was Trump a bad president from the where the Dow was at the end of his, I don't remember, at the end of his administration. What was the Dow at then?
Well, it had gotten down, in what was it, March of 2020? It had gotten under 20,000.
Then would that have been, nobody's going to say, oh, well, gee, you had the pandemic.
Right.
So I guess that's a big factor for
Yeah.
the Wall Street crowd.
Yeah.
How big is the Wall Street crowd as an electorate?
Not that big.
Yeah.
No.
So it's Joe and Judy, the average citizen that's
Yeah.
really going to, how are they affected?
Yeah. I mean, with the Dow at close to 40,000, who have benefited? Well, the people who have been invested.
Yeah.
If the people who are not invested, whether they just didn't want to or couldn't, you're right, they've not done well. They've really been hurt by rising
Costs.
prices, grocery store items, and grocery store items, you see that every week, right? It's shocking, really, what,
Yeah.
I was, just as an example, on Monday, I was out of work, had to have something done, and so I get out. It's about 2 o'clock. I said, I'm starving. Let me just pull into a McDonald's. I remembered, the dollar menu, right? I haven't been to McDonald's probably in, 3 or 4 years. I said, I'll get 2 hamburgers, $2 and something. 2 hamburgers, right? I had to take my glasses off and put them back on again. Came to $4.38.
I heard on the radio other people telling the McDonald's horror story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're validating you're validating
Yep.
what the world is. Yeah,
The
I don't go to McDonald's. I'm a snob.
Okay.
No, it's just I don't find it tasty or anything.
Well, it was the closest thing, and I said, let me just get something. And I mean, the meat portion was, well, it wasn't as thin as Bible paper, but it was pretty close to thin. And I actually had to, open the bun to make sure the meat was actually in there, because just on a visual inspection, it looked like it was just 2 buns.
Yeah.
But no, I confirmed there was some meat in there. And it came to $4.38. But at that time, I would have paid $43.80 because I was starving. You know, but yeah. So I mean, that type of stuff people are affected by.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so
Well, how about consumer spending? Do you have any idea how that's going? I've heard that's been a disaster.
yep, that's another thing that's really slowing down. That, you know, people who would do something 3 or 4 times a week now are doing it 1 or 2 times a week or something like that. Yep. So that's yeah. I mean, it's greatly affecting that crowd. Now the other crowd, you know, who's at all-time highs for the market, you know, it's more matter of fact. Oh yeah, it's 438. Okay, yep. Here's the money, right? But and then there were cheapskates like myself who's at 438.
Yeah.
What did I order?
You gave exactly 440 and said keep the change.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is, you know, God, you're generous.
Well, you know, I picked up a penny on the way out, so it came to really 437. But you know, I mean, yeah, you know. But no, it's like, yeah, you know, and this is no longer a dollar, which was a shocker. But yeah, that plays into, I think, people not feeling great.
Other than the end of the, you know, when we really started to get into the inflation spiral during the Carter administration. Do you remember any inflation in this country that's been as bad? I mean, there's always inflation, but has there been any spike in the last, since the 80s or since the 70s?
No.
This is about the worst.
This is about the worst, and for the longest period of time.
Scary.
Yeah.
Really scary.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into, what's the line here that we're going to discuss? Weren't we kind of discussing that? Inflation. Mixed results.
Mixed results. The rate of increase had been going up. In the month of April, it started to come down. The May numbers come out in the middle of June, and the projection is pretty good sized drop on the rate of increase. So at the beginning I had mentioned that, well, maybe June is going to be a good month. If those inflation numbers show the rate of increase going down and the Fed has an interest rate meeting and they say some good things, I wouldn't be surprised if the market went back to 40,000 on that. Because the hit it took from 40,000 to 38 or 37,800 or so was on that reacceleration of inflation fear.
Well, playing my Mr. Gloom and Doom again, when you say the rate of increase goes down, that does not mean inflation goes down.
No, it's just going up at a slower pace.
And the people in Wall Street take that
Like
as the
that.
victory.
Yeah.
And hoping Joe consumer doesn't realize it didn't go down. The rate of increase.
Yeah, well, it's never going to go down unless you're in like a depression, right? But you know, I think it's all relative, right? If prices double in a year, that's bad. If they double in 10 years, that isn't too bad.
That's the way that the economy really is set. I mean, everybody knows the inflation is going to go
Right.
on forever.
Right. And it has to, because otherwise nobody would buy anything.
Why wouldn't they?
Because why would you buy something today if you knew it was going to be cheaper tomorrow?
Well, I mean, if it's going to decline in the price, but what if there was a stable currency? You would buy what you needed when you needed it, not in
Right.
anticipation, not on holding
Right.
on.
Right.
So,
Right. But you would still not buy as quickly as you would if prices were going up.
so it's always good when people are buying, even though they don't really need it. But
Yeah, because if no one bought anything, there'd be no economy.
Well, eventually, no matter what, your underwear wears out.
That's true.
And I'm certainly hope you as Mr. Economic Animal doesn't say, I'll just do without
No, no.
So it's necessity that should command you to buy something, not, will it be cheaper next month? The pair of underwear that's wearing out?
Depends on the state of one.
State of what?
Of one. In other words, I mean, as soon as you take it out of the package, right, it's deteriorating. The question is...
Only when you put it on.
Yeah. And the question is, how long do you let the deterioration go before you make the purchase? Same thing with a car.
I will tell you, I am the guy who likes to squeeze that last mile out of a car.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I went down and got my last car. I used cars.com, one of those things that you put in what you want to get, and they give you the price. Best price was at somewhere on Auto Mile in Norwood. I'm driving down the muffler. I'm squeezed. This is 225,000 miles. Mr. Cheap.
Yeah.
The muffler falls out. I put it in the back, in the trunk, and got there, putting on the gas just so the noise wouldn't be too bad, and made it right then. And that's me. I'm hoping to have two things fall out on the next car, rather than just one.
One. Well, my last car,
War stories, folks. Go ahead.
there were 11 things wrong with it when it died in a parking lot 30 miles from home. And I was shocked. I said, oh, come on. Oh, come on, just start one. Deader than a doornail. Called to get it towed. It was like 3:30. Oh, yeah, we'll be there in 35, 40 minutes. 3:30. So I say, okay, 4:15. 6:45, the tow truck pulls in. Ah, yeah, he says, we had a couple of cases ahead of you that, took a little longer. I said, okay, where do you want to tow it to? Of course, at that time, I was going to get rid of it. I says, back home, my driveway. Okay. Then called up a place that gave you $250 for it. But, yeah, there were 11 things wrong.
11 things wrong.
This didn't work, this fell off, this wasn't,
And don't you think you sort of thought 5 was the signal, get this car to get to the dealer?
Yes, you would think, but it was still running.
It was. The operative word here was.
It was still running. And of course, as with the way things go, it'll stop running in the most opportune time, right?
How many miles on this car?
When it died, I think it was 227.
Great, man.
Yeah.
But you could have saved yourself some of just anticipating that one last trip.
Yep. And you did. You think, I got to get rid of this. Next month. Next month. Next month. And then, of course, these things happen. Doesn't say, hey, by the way, you're going to be 30 miles away. I'm not starting. Doesn't tell you that, right?
No, well, you got to work on your ESP.
Yeah. But, I would drive them into the ground.
All right, leading economic indicators.
They were down again in April. February was up. It broke a long streak of negative readings, but it was just a fluke because March was down and April was down, and so now history shows that if you get 3 straight negative months, the odds of a recession increase. So we're back to that again.
Yes, but we've been back to that for a long time.
We have been. We have been. But again, like inflation, the rate is getting better. The rate of inflation increases are not as high. Leading economic indicators, the negative numbers are not as bad. So, I mean, if you want to be optimistic,
And you do.
they're moving in the right direction, but just
Okay.
barely.
All right. Well, then June, the figures from June will tell a story.
Will tell
then.
us. Yep.
Jobless claims. So they're down.
They're down. They continue to be pretty good. I mean, they report every Thursday for the prior week, and a big number you want to focus on that, or people focus on is 250,000 layoffs a week. If you stay under that, history shows that it doesn't really hurt the economy. And throughout this entire talk about high inflation and whatnot, they've always stayed under 250,000. So that's a good sign.
Employment report, the non-farm payrolls up by 175,000, and that's the 40th straight month
Yep.
job gains. But it is the smallest in 6 months.
Right.
And you're not going to tell me the percentage of part-time jobs.
Actually, that was for the April report. That was the first month in about 4 months that part-time jobs increased.
Part-time,
Temp jobs.
Temp jobs.
Temp jobs increased.
The
The prior,
percentage.
I think it was the prior 2 or 3 or 4 months, temp jobs were declining. So definitely that shows that there's some weakness there.
Okay.
But you've had 40 months in a row of non-farm payroll gains, but things are slowing down.
So it seems. All right. The manufacturing jobs gained.
Yeah,
52.
that was a good sign.
Labor force rose 87.
Yeah, that's also good news.
Wages up. Well, you'd expect that inflation.
Yep.
All right. So you're positing this is not a bad report.
Not a bad, and there are, like I said, there are a couple of things coming up the middle of June that, if they go as some people are expecting, we could be back to the 40,000 level again.
But there's also some reports that say we can expect a recession.
Yep.
So are we flipping a coin, or am I going to be the pessimist and you're the optimist as usual?
Yeah, you're kind of I think a lot's going to happen with the next inflation report and what the Fed says in the middle of June. And they were kind of harsh the last meeting. So my guess is they'll be the other way at this meeting. And if you get inflation to downtick a little bit, and the Fed says some kind words, that might be enough to get the market back up again.
Well, they seem to be wanting, and everybody seems to be wanting the rates to go down. They want to announce a cut.
Well, they're starting to get pressure now, right? Because today, the European Central Bank cut rates. A couple of days ago, Canada cut rates. So that's going to put pressure.
What did Turkey do?
They did nothing. They did. You can ask Mel Brooks. He'd have the answer on that one. So they're getting pressure. They're going to have some pressure to cut rates, but they're not going to do it this month. At least the Fed funds market says there's no chance.
Well, we didn't get a chance really to get around to the question we discussed beforehand about the crash in real estate prices. Deutsche Bank ate $350 million out of Manhattan office building
Yep.
on Lower Broadway, because the big goal now is to turn it into residential, going from an office building. But that's a big hit, where I saw this, they said this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
How will that? And you had some thoughts on how that will affect things before we end off here.
Yeah. I mean, eventually it will cross over to, you know, residential real estate prices, and it hasn't happened. It has happened in some areas, but not in our area.
Well, could that be the saving thing? You mentioned a huge real estate transaction in your town,
Yeah.
which was overbid 31,000.
Crazy.
I can't understand somebody leaving, say, the East Village to come to Auburn.
Right.
And maybe there is a reason, and maybe this is home, and they can do their work away from the job there. That can't really help the transformation of the office buildings into residential.
No, and if it's happening at Deutsche Bank, you know, it's happening at J.P. Morgan and Citi.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And all these others too, right? So,
Yeah.
the more and more that comes into the market, you know, the negative effect it's going to have.
Well, next month we'll find out more.
We should.
And this has been Richard Morco with Michael Carnevale, and we hope you enjoyed this edition of Conversations With, and hope you will join us next month.